Telegram. And of course, we want to encourage all of you to join us over on YouTube. I think we just brought that up. So, welcome into our YouTube viewers. Once you get to that site, dtitrader.com/YouTube, click on the live link. Make sure you're subscribed and uh, take a moment to say good morning in the chat room. We always look forward to hearing from everybody. If you like what you're seeing over there, give us a big thumbs up. We always appreciate that. All right. Risk disclaimer. There is a very high degree of risk involved in trading. You and you alone are going to be responsible for the decisions you make. So take into consideration everything you need to take into consideration, be it about the market, about your personal circumstance, everything that gets involved in that. Always consider risk and remember that past performance is not always indicative of future results. So let's get into it. This morning in Telegram T-Buzz Talk and Trade, let's start with the pivot at 77.35. Market's a little bit below that right now. It's something we're paying attention to. Magic 5, Apple 317.55. And if I take a look over at Apple right now, they made it up to 320.28. They're currently at 317.42. Got that RB3 open at 317.45. So right on the dot, we did see the market push right at the beginning of the day. With NVIDIA, you've got 220.55. They did not make that move higher, only got up to 219.86. We'll look at Microsoft at 487.55. They only made it up to 484.16. They're back down to 481.45 right now. Over in the TQQ, 72.55. TQQ made it up to 71.69. So still leaving a little bit on that one. And then SLV at 60.55. SLV has rallied up to 62.16 after an RB3 open at 60.26, which also happens to be the low of the day. So strong on SLV, strong on Apple, and still waiting on these others. We know where resistance is. That's important. A couple of insights from Tom this morning. Crude trading up at the highs. Next Wednesday, we're going to get the NVIDIA story. So looking forward to that earnings. Walmart POS. All right. Key numbers on SpaceX 150. Write that down. 150, if you remember, the IPO was at 135, but the opening price on that first day, 150. So if you're wondering where that comes from, that's that one. And then Micron above 955 could get a bid. Micron right now at 957 made it all the way up to 964.40. Tom, I think that should have been one of your Magic Five. So the
Well,
insight came
I
in.
like to. It wasn't set up at the time I did it, and I thought, well, I might as well share what I'm looking for on it. So I typed it into Insights.
Yeah, 935 open of RB3. So yeah, that was a late bloomer on Micron, but they did come through. Now, let's talk a little bit about crude 84.40 the open. They've been hanging around that 84.40 area most of this week, but a big rally this morning made it up to 87.69, low of 84.23, currently at 86.31. The FTD levels, well, we're still below that 78.20 quarter, but I keep wanting to stress this because everybody's seeing the market moving down this week. We are so far above that open of the month, 75.50, that you have to sort of take everything as it flows. News, Iran. That's the big story. That's what's driving everything. Next week, hopefully, we'll get into that earnings. Tom mentioned NVIDIA, maybe be able to get the market back into an economic front. Tomorrow, we do have PMI composite flash. That'll be tomorrow morning. That's both services and manufacturing. When it says composite, that's what we're looking at there. So, and it comes out, by the way, guys, in the middle of RB3. So you get the RB3 open 15 minutes later, PMI composite flash. So be aware of that tomorrow morning. That's going to could be a disruptive phrase in the market. Now, I want to be clear, normally not that big of a report, but anything that can disrupt, well, that's what the market's paying attention to. That's what happens when you get a little bit of a negative market. So, Tom, let's get to your opinion. And what I want to do is bring in the Telegram channel from this morning. And we took a look at the pivot, the Magic Five. Let's see if we come down here. This is the moneymaker 77.75, 76.95. That was posted early this morning. We went down to 76.80 afterwards, but we're back above that 76.95. So, quick question for you: when the market breaks support but then comes back above it, what is that telling you?
Well, when it goes outside of its frame, I start looking for news outside the normal tape. And this morning I'll cover it in a little bit, but there were three primary factors that I think is driving the market, and I explain. But uh, one of the questions I said, great question, uh, David asked, and I said, and I'll show this when we go live, but the yield on the 10-year and the yield on the 30-year, the low this morning on the S&P, I'm a tape reader, and the low this morning on the S&P coincided with the high of the bond. I said, okay, that's the primary mover because if you remember yesterday, okay, you remember yesterday, he did his fancy footwork, and that's where the rally came from on an otherwise, soft week where we had the big rally yesterday. It went up to I think 77.65. Okay. And then we stopped, and then we spent the rest of the day, working back and forth. And then in the evening, we went lower. So I was watching the tape this morning, trying to say, why is this market? The question I asked myself, why is it outside the frame? Because it dropped quite a bit uh, relative to what it normally does, and that I start looking, and I found three things that got my attention. One was the bond price was at the high of the yield. They're really focused in on that 10-year bond. And so I looked at it and I said to myself, okay, it's backing off from that. See if they buy the S&P. Well, if you go look at the low of the S&P, it coincides with the high on that 10-year bond. And ever since that high, the bond yield has been coming down, and the market made that low, has been working itself higher. Typically in a down market, just an insight, it's got to stay down for an hour and 45 minutes in a bull market to be a real down day. So I've been very patient and waiting for everything to line up to become a buyer. Besides the stuff I already have, I didn't sell anything. I'm just sitting here, like everybody else, suffering through the face peeling that's going on. But that's okay because I see the bigger picture. And
Okay, so Tom, going through these extra insights because this was you don't
hold on.
usually put the extra insights in here. Okay, it looks like Tom got a phone call. But let me just run you guys through this, and when he's ready, he'll come back in. Um, so this was the morning, and this was sent out about an hour before the RB3 opened. Primary drivers to overnight sell-off: 10-year note, 4.7 needs to drop below 4.65. We're talking about the yields there. For rally, Walmart stock uh, disappoints, and oil prices up 3.7. So that's the crude moving higher. So kind of hitting the things there. Now, Tom, when we come down to timing opportunity, patience will pay. Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, in other words, one of the things that I'm fairly decent at is market timing. And and when I use the words patience will pay, hands in the pocket, I am evaluating everything. I want to be a buyer, okay? I love to catch these things when they get everybody else short because I don't think it's short term in nature, okay? Uh, and I think that is something that is a forte I have. And so I was sitting there watching first hour, watching everything, watching the numbers, and trying to get in sync with the current day. But my picture is a little bit bigger than the current day right now. Okay. And that is what I'm trying to do. Okay. And you shouldn't do that, Sean. Use my numbers. Don't make up your own if you're going to take, take the things. These numbers I give you are good numbers. Go
Yeah,
check
the
it
other
out.
thing, the other thing, Tom, not everybody gets up as early as you and I. If you miss the opportunity, wait for the next one. Don't have a fear of missing out. That's a beautiful thing about the market. There's always going to be another opportunity. Don't chase.
Right. Yeah, be patient.
Okay, so watch Apple up, money flowing. We got that. SpaceX supporting at 125. Let me take a quick look at SpaceX. 132.73 right now, 132.25 the low. Didn't even get down to that 125, but already looking forward to that support. And then I saw a question a little bit earlier about the corn. If you have sold corn calls swap for,
Yeah, let me talk about that,
yeah,
Chuck. Okay, I've been bullish on December corn for about 4 months. Everybody remember say I think corn's going to $5. Y'all remember that? Okay, and and it's been tracking up. 460, 465, 470. I said a warning number, 485. If it gets above 495, that's where you have to take action if you got a field goal on. I had a field goal on with corn. And I say turning bad money into good money. So here's how I do it. So if I don't worry about the fact I'm behind on the call because I'm up on the put that I sold, but what I do is I change the nature of the trade. And if I've got a call that's against me, no muss, no fuss, I go in and close it out, and I subtract from that the what I received for it, and then I go sell another put. Bad money into good money, which means right now it's clear above $5. Corn's going higher, so I sell it. So where do I sell it? At the top of the breakout for the month, which was 460 on corn. So I just took a 500 call and turned it into a 460 put, and it worked out at that 495. And I said, I better remind people this is how you do it if you never did it before. But it's called taking bad money and turning it into good money. I'm with the trend now. If corn keeps going higher, it's not going to press me. In my younger days, I used to roll it to a higher price and have to do the same thing a week later. So that's what I did. And I want everybody to know that. And that's why I put it in there to make sure. I've been typing it in there about warning numbers and you got to take action. And then I said, I'm going to wrap it up. Okay. And corn right now is 505. So selling that put, good money, right? Premium, bad money, the 500 calls getting more expensive by the minute. So that's what I do. And that's just a good way when you get a movement like we've had in corn. Any questions about that? I wanted to explain it because I know a lot of people are new to it and you really, you got to have, that's why we do the warning numbers. You got to have a plan. That was my plan. Any questions
all right.
about that? Everybody seems to get it. Bad money against the trend into good money with the trend.
Okay, and if you'd like to know more about that, of course, you can check out the white papers. Also, check for the availability of in-person classes with Tom because that sort of what you just got there, we can go into a little bit more detail in an in-person class. Make sure that you understand what you're looking at. All right, so let me go on, Tom. Support 76.75. You're looking for the next big number below that morning low at 76.80, and you give us a few others. The monthly open is actually down at 75.50, guys, but you always look in groups of 100. So why is 76.50 important? It's 100 points above the open of the month. Typically, you'll notice Tom usually uses 45, 76.45. But because that monthly open for August is at 75.50, you have to make some adjustments and understand. So that's where that comes in. I can explain that one. I don't need to go to Tom for that, but we've got additional SpaceX support key number in bonds 109.20. What is it about 109.20, Tom, in the bonds?
Yeah, if you put it into your custom page on the roadmap, it will tell you the actual midpoint of the long bond is 109.20. And if we can get above the midpoint, which means yields up and down are now starting to recede and go lower, that's going to be a push for the market. And that's why that number is so important today, 109.20. I think that
And real
answers the
quick,
question, David. Yeah.
so I want to make this point, Tom, because bonds do trade in 30 seconds. So that is 109 and 20 30 seconds, not 109.2.
Right.
Want to make sure everybody understands that. So if you're thinking, wait, that's a little bit low for the midpoint, that's because you're thinking decimals. Bonds move in fractions in 30 seconds. So quick little update on that. Most of you know that, but anybody who's new, want to make sure you're in on the game. Let's see. GC and SI in plat. What's the plat there?
No, in play. It's supposed to be in
In
play.
play. Okay, gotcha. I was thinking, wait, is there a term I'm not aware of? Okay, so in
Just
play,
fat
gotcha.
fingered.
I do the same thing. Let's see. You view today as a buy day, patience and wait.
In
So
other words, I'm basically saying, even though the market's down, Chuck made this point earlier, we're up for the month. We're up for the month. There's going to be a rally, I think, before the end of the day. We got you saw how fast yesterday the market put on 60 S&P points. And because of that, because of that, I expect that to happen again. I don't think he's just going to do one action. Uh, my guess he'll do three, and we've seen the first, so the other one will come along when he thinks the timing's right. So that's in the back of my mind, just based on experience. I think we'll see it.
and when you say he, you're talking about the
I'm talking
Treasury
about,
Secretary
I'm
Scott
talking about
Bessent.
referred to him the greatest Treasury Secretary of my lifetime.
I certainly like the pick. I like Scott Bessent as well. Let's see. So let's keep coming down the list. And 77.46, 76.80. That's just a statement of fact. As long as bond ro- bond rose yield dropped, they bought the low. As long as
That's
the
what I was explaining earlier. I was trying to type out. That's what gave me the clue to watch bond yields, something
yeah,
I hardly ever do, but today it's very important since the action that made us rally yesterday was what? Was the bond yields falling from the highs, and that's where all the institutional and everybody's focused in on today. And I think that's important to know that. And I've got
and then
something
we
else I'm going to share with people later on when we get to the slides.
and then we've got an audio message in here. Let's see. Do we want to play that, Tom?
I forget what I said. Let's see what I said.
All right, let's see what Tom said this morning.
All right, this is symbols to watch. Slash 10Y. That's the 10-year yield on Thinkorswim. Slash 10Y. Slash 30Y is the 30-year yield. Watch the yield on the 10-year above this number is bearish. 4.705. 4.705 is bearish on the 10-year yield. On the 30-year yield, 5.45 is bearish. Put these on your Thinkorswim and follow them throughout the day. This is the primary trigger for whether we're going to go up or down today. That's where the institutional markets are looking.
All right, there. So a couple of yield points to be aware of.
Well, one thing about it, I was talking to Jonathan, and I've been trying for an hour to get that information, and Jonathan and I were talking about it. I said, boy, I'd like to have that actual yield. I knew how to get it if I go to, say CNBC and pop it up, but I wanted to watch the flow or the tape action, and we got that symbol. I said, hey, let me share it with everybody because this is great, great, great insight. Uh, I'd been working on it about 3 hours this morning to find it, and I wanted to share it with people because it's something to watch. And in this current market, if you watch it, that and tie that to the S&P and the general market, you will see a movement, especially if we break the low. Now, the low that we got to break on the 10-year low meaning what? Or not the, yeah, the low meaning, let me give it to you real quick. It's on the 10-year yield. Let me find it here. Yeah, hold on. Let me get it. The low being 4.641. So if you get below that, they're going to buy this market. Why? That means yields are dropping, and everybody's going to say, hey, yields are dropping. He's going to do something, and they're going to anticipate and buy the market on that news. And what does bond prices do when that occurs? They go up in price.
And Tom, if people want to be a part of that T-Buzz Talk and Trade Telegram channel to get that kind of insight, how do they go about doing that?
Chuck, dtitrader.com/TNT.
There you go. All right. We'll get that link in the chat for you guys in just a moment here. Let me go ahead and move on to our next slide because we do have a presentation for you today. I just want to make sure we've got all the updates in. All right, so three factors leading to the market down. Walmart earnings, kind of glanced over that one. Crude prices and treasury bonds. Getting not only the 30-year, the 10-year TLT, but also paying attention to those yields. Walmart, let's see, yesterday's close 114.30, today's open 106.38. You're down over 9%. You can see the little gap in here on the daily, and that just gives you an idea of that gap right there is where the earnings occurred. So gives you an idea of what we're looking at on that. Walmart was the big player this morning with the earnings. So
And let
kind of
me
adding.
point out, if you look at that daily there at daily
Mhm.
midpoint, it's way below that. Walmart's under pressure, but that's a short-term thing, folks. Let me tell you, they'll forget all about it by next Wednesday when Nvidia comes out.
I I agree. Yeah, it's move on to the next subject. All right. So let's see. Speaking of that, crude oil prices. Today's open 84.40 up to 87.69, up almost 4% at today's highs. The interesting thing here, we're still below those highs from the end of July. You can see them on the chart right there. So we've got some upward pressure. We've had some upward pressure. It's pretty much erasing some of the downward pressure that we had at the end of July and the beginning of August. So there's a balance to be met here. How close are we to meeting that balance, do you think, Tom?
Ah, I tell you, it's hard to say because you got so many factors going into that. Every
Mhm.
day that goes by, the business guys and the creative people are figuring ways to get more oil into the open market. So you got that working. And I think that I think it's going to be interesting to watch the next couple of weeks on crude. You know, that's what I'm thinking anyway.
I agree. So definitely a fluid situation.
That's a good word. Maybe I'll use it. It's a
Yeah, there
fluid
you go.
situation.
All right. So Treasury bonds, we spent a little bit of time talking about this morning. The long bond must get above 109.20 today to take the pressure off. I like the fact that when Jonathan typed up this slide, he typed it out as a fraction. Want to make that clear. It can sometimes be a little bit confusing for new traders.
It's
And
confusing for old traders the way they do bonds.
that's true. You do have to think about it a little bit more than an instant thought. So 30-year and 10-year on TOS, Thinkorswim, and the symbols, you can see them here, different type of a symbology. That might not come into your roadmap well, but if you're looking at your Thinkorswim platform, you can see this. These are the micros, micro 30-year, micro 10-year, and the yield is what you're paying attention to here, 5.24, 4.687. So biggest factor driving fear in the markets right now. All right. So let's see. Midweek market update. That was last night. Slides and recording available in our slides here this morning. And let me get those slides updated for you guys. Want to make sure you've got that link. We posted it a few times, but I just want to go ahead and post it one more time here. And this particular slide, letting you know where to be. This is slide number 11 this morning. Now let's go ahead and take a look in here. Past 5 train and trade sessions. We talked about the gold air pocket last week. So if you're if you want to be in front of everything, make sure you're here for trade and trade. Trading the SPY with daily pivots, trading the SPY with the ES futures, stocks and ETFs of interest on a down Tuesday in a bull market. And then yesterday, Christmas in August, talking about the MTI dashboard.
Yeah,
So
one
let's
thing
go.
I want to say about the air pocket, you see what I'm talking about, why it's an air pocket. Market, uh, the market did its thing, went out, made lows on traditional charts, did all that stuff, and now look at it, it's making highs. That tells you it was an air pocket. We're going higher with gold.
Yeah, definitely. You're seeing that behavior. We'll see how that plays out. Let's go ahead and look at the FTD stocks here, or the FTD list, and the VIX. This Tom is something that to me raises a concern. 1576. We're back inside the FTD range. We lost that flag. There was a good thing on VIX. Now it's not gone up, but it stopped going down, and that's going to be one of those things that makes sense based on what we've seen in the market. But notice we did lose that flag, so keep an eye on that. The NYICDX, um, that is sitting again inside the area. Actually, we got a red flag, negative 92.19. So at 98.83, it's below the FTD low. Major markets, no flags. So a lot of people, and this goes back to that perspective, Tom. Everybody's talking about how weak the market is. Not one of those major markets trading below its FTD low. Not a single one. So that's going to be something worth noting. Although the Dow at 19.08%, it's on the lower side. We need to keep an eye on that. We've got our crude, gold, and silver all bullish right now. And let's keep coming down the list. We'll see the mining stocks come up here. Lots of green flags on that. And we get down into our stocks, starting with Apple. Apple long, Airbnb long, Archer Daniels Midland long. They're all above the FTD high. Apple on the Magic 5 this morning. That's at 316.69. They're right now up to 317.21. So still performing well and well above the FTD high. And come down, we've got these 4 right here. And let's see, how are those shaping up? That is Air, Amazon, AppLovin, and Broadcom starting to give a little bit of a negative thing. So we had a lot of fun with Broadcom going up. Looks like they're pulling back a little bit. So check up on that. Any thoughts on Broadcom here, Tom? Or
You got to keep,
Avgo, as you call it?
yeah, you got to keep it in the center point. The stock this morning when the market was going higher was rallying back. And if you look at it right now on Avco, it's about 363, sort of in a range 59 to 65. That's the range it's in right now, 59 to 65.
Yep, definitely. Okay, so let's keep coming through this list, and I'm looking for any standouts. Well, here's Lilly. We've been talking about Lilly a good bit. Let's see, 1269.38 versus open of the year, open of July, open of August. The FTD high.
And I wasn't in front of people, but I did a 1300, 1320 call spread out to October 16th. If anybody remember, we tried to get it at 1200 to 1210 or something like that, 1220, and we couldn't get filled. So I went on and paid up for the 1300 call and sold the 1320 call, okay, on Lily. Again, I think it's in route headed to 1500. That's why I'm doing that spread. On the
Okay.
shares
And
also.
Microsoft also in the Magic 5. They did not make the run up. Micron, with as much as they're pulling back, they're still above that FTD high, which was 928.98. So keep an eye on that number. And then come down to the bottom of the list, of course, Walmart is showing up that short flag, not only dropping today, but dropping below the FTD lows. So it's a significant drop, but we'll see how it behaves in the next few days, how it goes into the weekend, and then how it starts next week. I think that's going to tell us more about Walmart than what we're seeing right now. Okay, so let's get back to our slides. And I think I'm going to turn everything over to Jonathan at this point with today's focus on option plan for SpaceX.
Yeah, Chuck, let me just get my screen set up. Take over from you.
Jonathan's been busy getting all the other presentations we're doing today and next week ready for you guys. He's a busy man this morning.
Tom, you want to talk about SpaceX today?
Yeah, I was talking to one of the students yesterday, and I told him, I said, look, I think SpaceX might make it to 180 by the end of the year. And I said, I'm going to take a slice of it and I'm going to use a $5 increment trade. And I got some pretty key numbers there. So I said, I'll start, I think 150 is the biggest number. If you get above it, then it's really going to get fun. But I think SpaceX is going higher. But what I found about the stock is it goes through little cycles, little bullish bearish cycles. And I said, how's the best way to play that? And I said, let's just use 5-point increments. And so I set up a plan, that I would do a 10 wide spread, 45 to 55, 40 to 50, 35 to 45, 30 to 40, 25 to 35. And I'll set aside money that will allow me to do all those levels. Because once I get below 125, we start getting in a zone I don't want to own it anymore because I'm wrong. And so I set it up. I said, I'm going to spend this time buying it on the right time to buy it. I'm going to show you what I use. But the bottom line is that I'm going out to October, not December, to do this. And so I've got it set up, and I'll show you why. Obviously I'm bullish on SpaceX now. It showed me it had quit what I call the downward fall down at 104. It came up, and now it looks to me like it's gonna go up, pull back, go up, pull back. But these options can be very playful for your account if you catch a run and you got some positions on, because with the volatility and everything else with SpaceX, you can make it really pay. But you got to think in terms of dollars, how much you're going to put out there to make this happen before you even think about doing this. But I'm bullish on the big picture, okay? So my all bets off number closed below 120. I'm wrong, but I think it's going to 180. And I'm planning on stair-stepping this up over the next few weeks into September, that if we start moving higher, I'm going to participate. That's on SpaceX. Now, if you look at it, opened the month at 106.40. It's had a high, I think 148.49 this month, if I remember correctly, something like that. And so really, it's very bullish for the month above 126. And you got that real low down there at 104 at the first of the month. So it's been climbing. And I thought, well, it deserves our attention, because if it's starting a run to the end of the year, which I think it is, then we need to figure out some way with options that we can participate. And that's why we're spending this time to focus on it. Okay. Now, first thing I do is look at the daily chart. And you see, today it made a new daily low. Does everybody recognize why I'm saying it made a new daily low? And I haven't bought options at 135, 145 because of that today. But I would consider it if we get to the end of the day, RB4 or the Z-bar turns positive, I would consider putting on a SpaceX option today. But right now I wouldn't, because right now the daily is saying hands off of SpaceX. Everybody understand what I'm looking for? Okay. Now, if you understand that, so we're just sitting there not doing it, but even though it's at 135, I could do it, I wouldn't do it, because on SpaceX, you got sort of a negative trend now. If this is RB4, that's a different story. I might consider it. Okay. There's a caveat there. All right. So the 30-minute RB is telling you don't need to rush. Just be patient.
And I'll get this updated. Right now, we're current chart. More patience.
Yeah. No need to rush putting this on. But you got a down day if you look at the new low that was created today. So you back away and wait until you get an up day. And how are you going to know you got an up day? Well, what was the high of the day? It looks like it's about 137, right, Jonathan?
137.88 is what I have
Yeah.
as high
So
today.
138, set an alert there. Time to get back on that.
And that would be a higher high. To
Yeah.
reiterate what Tom's saying.
And then I'd go to the reference bars to get the exact timing. But I'd try to do it around these levels, 135, 130, 140 levels. And I'd use a 10 watt. And we'll go live and look at what it would cost you, where you could plan it out if you did 4 of these things. And that's the expiration I'd use. Okay. So that's how you lay it out and say, okay, well, how much money do I want to put on this if I think SpaceX is going to 180? And so you got to figure out, okay, where do you do this, right? And so today would not be a day. You'd wait and let it develop. There's no rush to build this position with a volatile stock like SpaceX.
We can go to a live option chain just to show people
Yeah,
how
let's go
to
look
build
at a few
that.
examples and multiply it times 4, because you want 4 of these on when you got a full boat. So what would it cost you for one? And current price of SpaceX right now, let me find it real quick. Current price of
131.
SpaceX, 131. So what's a 131, 141? What would it cost you?
We got SpaceX entered in here October 16th. They do it 5 wide. So you do it 130, 140. Right now it costs you about $4. 135, 145 costs you about 3.5.
Yeah. So about $4 in general is what it's going to cost you. So if you're going to commit to this strategy, you need about $1,600 to make it work. That's doing one every level.
And Tom's rule, pay no more than half the width of the spread. So these are 10 wide spreads. You wouldn't want to pay more than $5. You'd be paying too much.
Right, but I wouldn't pay more than 4, because I think that's a good price on the 10 wides.
All right.
Any questions about the SpaceX? Now,
Everybody know. Good.
three things I want to leave you with that, okay? Where's my all bets off number on this strategy? You need to know that. 120. 120.
Let's stay
Okay.
right there on 120 and show them how to set an alert at 120 on SpaceX.
Yeah, do that.
This is on, well, I'll
And
say
that's
this.
close below that, folks. It can go below it, but it has to close below it.
This is Tasty Trade, excuse me. At the top right of your platform, you'll click that little arrow. I pointed to the wrong one. It's the one pointing to the left. Right there, the far arrow. And when you click on that, it opens up a window. I think it's on overview maybe by default, but you want to click on that little bell icon. And when you do click on the bell icon down that vertical menu, you can then change your operator to less than 120. And we might as well go greater than 138 above today's high.
Now you got an alert set, right?
Now you got alert set right there. Yeah, it'll alert you. If you have Tasty Trade downloaded, or not Tasty Trade, yeah, Tasty Trade downloaded on your phone and you're logged in, it will alert you on your phone as well when you're on the go. Over there on Thinkorswim, it works pretty easily. I won't show it, but you would click on the price. You would right click on the price over on Thinkorswim, wherever you see a bolded price, and then from the drop down menu, there's a create alert. Pretty straightforward.
All right. The other thing, good question David asked. The key number on SpaceX is 150. So once you get above 150, then you start doing higher spreads into that 180. I think that's the answer to your question, right, David? Yeah. Once you got above 150, I'd start doing higher spreads. Okay. Simple, it's laid out, it's very functional, and it works. Now, of course, if I'm right on SpaceX making it to 180, which I think I will be, we'll see. If you have a bull case, I think it's all going to happen. Now, since let's look at the 10-year yield right now, and or look at the 30-year. You can look at price or yield. Anyone, but you can look at it and you can see the 10-year yield. Okay, is at 470 right now. Does everybody see that? So it's come. In other words, yields on the 10-year quit falling, and now they're coming up to test. It looks like that high number, and that's why if you go look at the S&P, this is a wonderful tape reading exercise. Look at the S&P right now. It's 76.91. So the S&P is being reflected in that yield hitting that right at the high level. Does everybody see how you can use that for the current market, the tape? Yeah, I'm sitting there watching it. Now, what I do, I will look at the 30-year. I don't want to confuse you, but I'll look at the 30-year bond and I look at the low of the 30-year, which is 108.31 on the 30-year bond. That's the price. If that goes lower than 108.31, then you gotta go back to the drawing board today. We're probably gonna have a deeper correction if that event occurs. Now, if you look at, put the E-mini in there, Jonathan, put the E-mini in there. Okay. You got a low down at 80, right, Jonathan? 80?
That's right, 76.80.
And the high of the day is what?
77, we'll call it 45, your number, 45.
Yeah, 77.45 to 80 is 45 points, 20 is 65 points divided by 2, let's call it 33. This is a on the fly pivot, but if you had 33 points to the low, that would be sort of the pivot number that would take the pressure off. What's that, about 77.15 area, I'd call it? 77.15, around that area.
That would be back above the midpoint, yep. 77.17 for sure.
Yeah.
21.
So that's how you do it on the fly.
So let me just try to hammer home a very key point with, trading with us at DTI. We don't buy when the price is going down. All right. Get that out of your mind. When we're speculative trading, you will never hear Tom say, "Hey, let's buy on the dip." Tom doesn't say that. That's not how he trades. So if you're unclear on like what Tom mapped out for SpaceX and you see the price going down, all right, understand that not looking to get in today. Only when the price is trending up will we be looking to get in. So just understand that basic concept, all right, and you're going to be more in tune to what Tom is having to teach you here at Train and
Yeah.
Trade. Does that make sense?
Also, when you get a when if the I told you early this week I didn't do power because the market was below the weekly open. You know, you never know. And then we had the news yesterday, which was very encouraging. And then all of a sudden you got today where it resumes that trend of the week back down. And so what I did was, or what I said was, I thought we might get some follow through, but overnight the yield factor came in came in worse, and that happened overnight, usually about 2 in the morning. Yeah, because we had a trade last night. We were actually long and making money on the E-mini because my rule is exit by midnight. That's about the high before you got to that European Open about 2 where they started selling things. But anyway, and you're not up because you're sleeping. So that's why I say get out no later than midnight if I'm doing those futures at night, if you're in Futures Plus. But here's the point he's making. So let's think about it. Okay? Here's the point. We're above the monthly open. Chuck emphasized 75.50, right? The monthly open. When can this market turn if it ends up being negative this week? It turns on Sunday night where we get a new weekly open, right? And then we get Monday's high, Monday's low. And then on Tuesday, which I call trade day, we got a new set of data. So in effect, we could be down without tearing out the uptrend, which is down at 75.50. We could be down, and by Monday, Tuesday, this market's got a whole new twist on it. But I want you to follow the bonds, and it'll probably give you a heads up when it's going to happen. That's the value of the lesson with that symbol I gave you, the 10Y and the 1030. And I like prices, but yield is where everybody's focused, so we might as well talk yield. We started pulling back today. If you look at the 30-year bond, you got the 30-year, put the 30-year bond in there.
This is a 30-minute chart of the 30-year bond. Sure is.
We started pulling back today when the market went up and tested that 109.20 area and failed. And the S&P dropped. Put the S&P up there now. See that high of the S&P, what was it, 75, 77 point?
About 16. RB3 high, 77.16.
There you have it. So all of a sudden, when the bond, I like looking at the long bond. This is why I like do it. It started breaking down because it's going to show up faster. Maybe that's why I like the long bond over the 10-year bond. And so what did I do? I've been long gold. Go look at gold and look where I got out based on the bond yield changing. This is how you use it for timing. What's the high of gold?
Just shy of 4,600.
Yeah, I got out at 85 of whatever that is, 45.85 is where I got out because the yield changed. That's the value that I'm giving you to watch and learn because this will make you better at this game of trading. Does everybody grasp the importance of this meeting today on the bond yields? Very rare I get to talk about it or even want to talk about it, but it's a hidden indicator that we need to know about in this particular stage of the market. Give me a yes if you really appreciate the fact we went into this kind of detail on something nobody else is going to talk to you about and show you how it works. You know more than those guys on TV now. You know what to look for.
Yeah, I think it was a great session. I like the pace of it too. And I'm gonna have to drop off here, Tom, because we got single stock futures in about 35 minutes.
Perfect. So break time for me, and are we going to play anything today, or anything y'all'd like to, any program you'd like us to select for you? We'll ask you instead of us guessing. What would you like? What program would you like to know more about? Futures, I bet, right? Yeah, this is something that nobody else has that you can have if you're part of our team here at DTI. Play the futures first.